This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Network. My name is Chris Blades, and before I get started today, I'll make sure I take the time out to remind you, as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast, make sure you never miss an episode, make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review, be very appreciated, very helpful, allows you to guys like, if you have dislike, the ways we can improve, all that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, you can find us there, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, we can talk, we can chat, we can debate, and we can discuss. And there's obviously the second to last week of the season. Only one more week of games left. So there is a lot to discuss, especially when it comes to playoff implications and like seeding and different things. So we'll start on the NFC side. Obviously in the Sunday night game, a game that was thought to be, at least in my opinion, going to be a little bit more interesting. It was interesting there, I guess, a little bit early in the third when the Titans cut it to a 1-score game. But generally speaking, the Packers dominated that game. They got out early, jumped on the Titans early. We're up, 19-7 at halftime. 19-0 early in the second quarter. Like I said, the Tannehill run cut it to 45 yards. I didn't realize it was that far. I knew he ran through the defense a little bit, but like I said, the 45-yard touchdown run by Tannehill cut it to a 5-point game. And then the Titans didn't score after that. And the Packers went on to score 3 more touchdowns. So yeah, it was an interesting one because it was like snowy, so you're like, oh, it's going to be bad weather. Like maybe the points won't be, like they won't be as high scoring of a game. It was not an issue for the Packers. It was not an issue for Aaron Rodgers, not an issue for Davante Adams, which again, Aaron Rodgers has been there for a while. Davante Adams has been there for a while. So there's nothing new for them. Obviously, some of the Titans players probably haven't played too many games in the snow. So again, this is probably a little bit different for them, just like the slipping and sliding and things like that. It wasn't like snowing as hard as the game went on, but still just like the footing and like the cold and things like that just definitely takes some getting used to. But like I said, Davante Adams, Aaron Rodgers, they're used to it, and that's why they put on the performance they did. I mean, Davante Adams had what? 4? No, oh, okay, my bad. Only 3 touchdowns. He was it went 11 for 142 and 3 touchdowns. Equanimeous St. Brown caught a touchdown pass. And again, like no other player on the Packers had more than 2 catches. While Davante Adams had 11. But again, if you have Davante Adams, why would I throw the ball to other people if I don't have to? Especially when, as we talked about with the Titans pass defense, it's not good. So it was going to struggle to cover the Packers anyway, but obviously they don't have a guy good enough to shut down Davante Adams. So might as well just throw him the ball. A.J. Dillon had a good game, 124, 2 touchdowns on the ground. Aaron Jones had 94 yards. And then Aaron Rodgers had himself 21-25, 231. So not a high yardage output, but 4 touchdowns, only the 1 pick. So again, he did what he had to do. Very much cemented himself maybe as a leader in the MVP race through a game to play. Granted, Josh Allen starts to play tomorrow. Oh, well, today when you guys are hearing this. So we'll see what he does against the Patriots. But like I said, Mahomes didn't have his greatest game today. Obviously, they came back and won. Or you could just say the Falcons. We'll talk about that game in the next segment probably. But like I said, Aaron Rodgers put on another great performance on the year. He has like over 40 touchdowns, like under, I think only like 5-6 interceptions, something like that. So like he's been sensational. Is going to lead the league in touchdown pass, I think, by a pretty comfortable margin. I could be wrong about that. Like I said, if there was a year for him to get it, that obviously he hadn't already won it already. This was probably going to be the year. Just because again, it's not like somebody who's having an otherworldly season to like, it's not like, oh, Mahomes is throwing for like 55 touchdowns and like 5,000 yards or whatever like he did before. Like, all right, then like even though Aaron Rodgers having a great year, you can't give it to him. Like I said, there's no one like clear cut like, oh, this guy's phenomenal. So, hey, it's a situation where maybe it'll be Aaron Rodgers' time to get it, maybe his last one. I don't know. Like I said, he's been playing great all year. There's really no real sign of anything slowing him down. And again, when you see guys like Brady and Breeze still playing into their 40s, it's hard to say that this is going to be his last one. But hey, you never know. So yeah, like I said, they showed out, did what they had to do. The Titans, on the other hand, did not have themselves a great game. They kind of bottled up Derrick Henry, which was obviously the important part if you ever want to play the Titans, is like kind of contain him, even though he had 98 yards on 23 carries, so still 4 yards a carry. But again, he didn't score, didn't break off any big runs, so that's good. And then the passing game, because it was a little bit more bottled up, Derrick Henry the passing game really never got going. 10 of 11 or 24, 121 yards, a touchdown, a couple interceptions, like I said, obviously they got within a score, but it never really was all that close this game, honestly. And again, that's what the Packers had to do. They had to do that because the Seahawks won and the Saints won. So there's a scenario where each of the three teams could get the 1 seed. So both of these teams, all these teams had something to play for today, and all these teams have something to play for next week. So again, obviously the Packers couldn't just come out here and lay an egg after what the Saints and the Seahawks had done. The Saints on Christmas Day and then the Seahawks earlier on Sunday. And speaking of the Saints, we got to talk about Alvin Kamara putting on, one of the most impressive performances I've ever seen. Something that hadn't been done since like the black and white TV. So, I feel like I've mentioned in my take on this, but like if it happened when it was black and white or when the leagues like were still like sort of kind of segregated, it doesn't really count in my book. Hey, you can call me what you want to call me. But like modern records are like much more impressive to me because again, elite players. The players are better than they've ever been. They're faster, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're more athletic. They're better trained. Like I said, there's more teams, there's more competitiveness. Again, you have the full allotment of 30, 32 teams, how many ever, as opposed to in the 60s, 50s, you had like a limited number of teams. Again, not that many people were playing, not that many places had teams and things like that. So again, not to say that the record that happened back then didn't happen, or they don't count or whatever, but again, when a guy in the modern era does it or is close to the numbers, I usually lean towards the modern era guy. And like I said, Alvin Kamara had himself a fantastic Christmas Day. That got to be the shoes. Because I think he wore the special Christmas Day cleats. He might have to wear them again next week because, when you have a 6 touchdown performance, it's like, why not? So yeah, he 22, 155 on the ground, 6 touchdowns. Like I said, could have had 7. But Sean Payton decided to, get Taysom Hill his 1, because they sometimes like to use him. Not sometimes, they like to use him a lot, and they used him near the goal line on that one. I think it was like that 3rd and goal run from the 1 yard line. And at that point, the game was already out of hand. Like that was to put the score up 45-27 after the extra point. So it wasn't really all that close. But yeah, like I said, if Alvin Kamara got that one, and then he got the extra one, so that would have been 7 as opposed to 6. Would have had the record. But hey, it is what it is. They still won the MC South, so they don't really care. So yeah, they put on the Vikings, 52-33. It was really just the fourth quarter, because heading into the fourth, it was 31-27. You're like, okay, the Vikings have kind of got back into it. They clawed their way back in. Irv Smith caught a couple touchdown passes in the third quarter to cut the lead. Like I said, the Saints offense didn't really do a whole lot. Scoring-wise, outside of Alvin Kamara, really, like I said, Drew Brees didn't throw a touchdown, had 2 interceptions in the game. Like, he wasn't exactly great, but again, no Michael Thomas and different things. I think Traquan Smith was out. Like, they had limited pass-catching options out there. So again, not surprising per se, but still, they needed Alvin Kamara to have the game that he did, and he had it. So like I said, that was great for them. But yeah, like I said, the Vikings, unfortunately, just in the fourth quarter, Alvin Kamara just kept breaking loose, and they've really had nothing to do. Or should I say nothing that they could do to stop him. So yeah, the Saints did what they had to do. Unfortunately, now the Vikings, I think that officially eliminated the Vikings from playoff contention. So yeah, that stinks for them. Or I forget if they were, I don't think they were officially eliminated last week. I just thought it was like kind of going to be tough, but like obviously the loss, was definitely obviously eliminating, because again, now you're 6-9, you can't come back, at that point. But yeah, shout out to the Saints for doing what they had to do, getting the win, even though they were a little shorthanded. Still, like I said, defense still needs some work. Hasn't been great the last few weeks. But if you're going to score 52 points, you're going to win, I would imagine, I don't want to say 100 times out of 100, but you should win 100 times out of 100 if you score 52 points in an NFL game. That's just my own opinion. So again, Saints did what they have to do. Like I said, the Seahawks and Rams game, that was a weird one because neither team played all that great. Jared Goff obviously got hurt, had the thumb situation, so I got to see what happens there because they play the Cardinals next week, who unfortunately caught the L to the Niners. That was a tough one. Just a quick aside, if Robert Saleh was going to put out his audition tape for a head coaching gig or whatever, that they just like play that game film. There's a lot of other games you could pick out, but just like play that one and how they shut down the Cardinals offense, shut down Kyler Murray shorthanded and things, and just be like, hey, look, this is me. This is what I could do. This is what I can get out of my players. I think I'd be a good head coach. And then obviously say some other things to make you sound good. Maybe bring in some references and things like that. But you get the point. Like I said, I mean, that's... I'm not going to say that game's going to get him hired, because, again, he should probably already get hired off the work he's put in. But, I mean, if you need an audition tape, again, it was on Prime Video, so maybe not as many people saw it, but, still. The Niners couldn't have played the Cardinals any better offensively. Defensively, I should say. I think the score was 12 points, something like that. So I said, they completely shut them down. And so, like I said, the Rams play the Cardinals on next Sunday. And like I said, you got to see if they're going to be able to go with Jared Goff, if he's going to be incapacitated somewhere. I think they said he dislocated it in the game, popped it back in, but then it might be fractured now. And again, I think it's his throwing hand too. It kind of hit on the helmet. So again, if that's true, then that's going to be kind of a big deal. Seeing as that's, like I said, his throwing hand, you can't grip a football, you can't throw a football without your thumb. So don't really know what they're going to do there. And again, obviously, they're not in necessary danger of missing the playoffs. I don't think. Oh well, I guess maybe they could. Oh yeah, I guess they could drop out to the Cardinals, huh? Hold on, let me double check the conference standings here for a second. Okay, so they are currently 5th. Well, technically not 5th because obviously Washington's below them, but they're gonna be the 4th seed. So you get it. They're technically 5th. But they're 9-7. Oh, yeah, so wait, hold on. So, no, wait, they're in the playoffs. You just don't know what seed they're at. Because, yeah, kind of hold on. That's 4 teams right there. Oh, no, they're not. Technically, they're 6. My bad. That's my bad. So, like I said, so if they lose and Chicago wins, then I think they could be out, which would be kind of a terrible way to end the season. But like I said, you got to see what's going to happen with Jared Goff. I think John Wolford, something like that, is their backup, and he's never attempted to pass in the NFL. So that's not the guy. I would never want a guy starting his first NFL game, never having attempted to pass, with the playoff spot on the line in a division game. That's probably not who I'd want to go with. So we got to see what happens there. And then even if they do get in, if they're without Jared Goff, like I said, he's been kind of shaky. Wasn't that good in this game, but you don't know how much the thumb played into that. Like I said, that's the case, and they're going to be kind of, like I said, a little battered. That's going to be a problem moving forward because again, their defense was still good in this game. Only gave up 20 points to the Seahawks. And like I said, that's going to be tough to overcome if you have just a complete inept offense. So look at what Washington's dealing with. So like I said, Russell wasn't looking that good in this game. It wasn't great in this game. 20-32, 225, a touchdown. He ran the ball all right. He got sacked 5 times. Like I said, the Rams defense still showed up, but the Seahawks were able to make enough plays offensively to get some scores, while the Rams, whether it was because of the thumb, which obviously, again, I think played a big part, or wasn't, they couldn't really do much offensively. Only got 3 field goals in the game. Could never really punch it in. So, like I said, that's unfortunate for them. And like I said, they obviously had the defense gave it the big play to Hollister. Not the big play, but gave it a touchdown to Hollister late that officially all but sealed the game for the Seahawks. So like I said, that's tough. Their defense has been so good all year, but still, they're struggling. And also, again, I'm not going to agree with Jamal Adams, but Seattle's defense has been playing a lot better recently. Not the best defense in the league. I'm not going to go that far because the pass rush is still a little suspect. They did sack Jared Goff 3 times, but again, he's not the most mobile guy back there. But like I said, the defense has been playing a lot better, as I've been saying on the podcast for weeks now. So again, their defense isn't now like the league worst defense that they had been dealing with early in the season. So like, again, they're not going to be just a complete cakewalk in the postseason because of their defense. Speaking of defenses, I know if I'm on the Washington defense, I'm really upset right now. Because again, now they've lost what I think, after beating the Steelers, they have now lost... Oh, no, they beat the Niners, my bad. I forgot they barely won that game. Again, because of the defense. They had two defensive touchdowns, thanks to Nick Mullins. Like I said, they've lost back-to-back games now against the Seahawks and the Panthers that were both winnable, but Haskins, unfortunately, was not able to get the job done, was actually benched in this game for, who was it, like Taylor Heineke, I believe his name was? So, again, not ideal. And instead of winning the division outright, now they have to play next week against the Eagles, who are out of it, but again, we'll kind of see if they want to play spoiler a little bit for the chance to get to the playoffs and play, I guess, like the Bucks or whoever, in the first round. And like I said, it's all because Alex Smith has been healthy. Now, if he can get back healthy, and Terry McLaurin can get back healthy, and like obviously Antonio Gibson came back this game, so they get certain guys back on offense. Like maybe they'll win on next Sunday against the Eagles in the Sunday night game. I can't believe they flexed that, but whatever. It's an important game, so I get it. And so, like I said, if they can handle that, if they handle their business there, then all right, boom, they're in. Like I said, if they don't, then now either the Giants or the Cowboys get in, depending on who wins their game. So it's a whole big mess in the NFC East at this current time. And like I said, it would have been all solved if they had just beaten the Panthers. But unfortunately, they were not able to do that. And the Ron Rivera Bowl, I know that kind of stings. But Haskins wasn't good. Threw 2 picks. Was sacked twice. Did he fumble? He fumbled once. So again, not his best game, but also this is kind of what Dwayne Haskins has been. So it's just one of those situations where you have to go with who you have. Obviously, they probably would have played Kyle Allen out there if he was healthy, but he's not. As opposed to like Alex Smith, like in the backup situation, if you get what I'm saying. But they have to go with Haskins. He has not been good. I mean, it's probably over for him in Washington, I would imagine. They've given him a couple shots. Hasn't really worked out. I don't know who they're going to go with because I don't think Kyle Allen's the future. Alex Smith has been good while he's in there, but like he's also older, and like again, I don't know how long that leg's going to hold up if he keeps playing and playing and playing. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they got to figure out something there because the defense very good. Held the Panthers only 20 points. Sacked Teddy Bridgewater 4 times, held him to under 200 yards passing. The only person they really couldn't contain in this game was Curtis Samuel, honestly. Like, outside of him, they corralled just about everybody else on the offense. But again, their own offense does not put them in advantageous situations often enough. So, that stinks. And like I said, just going through the rest of the NFC East, because unfortunately that division does matter. The Giants, I mean, it was a 14-point loss, but the game was never that close against the Ravens. It's just one of those situations where they could not really stop the ground game. Gave up 249 yards on the ground. Only 1 touchdown, though, with 249 yards on the ground. Lamar had another efficient day passing, 2 touchdowns, 180 yards through the air. Dez, shout out, caught another touchdown pass, his only catch of the game. They caught a touchdown. Marquise Hollywood Brown caught a touchdown pass earlier. So again, it was off to, I mean, basically from the beginning, it was all but over. They were down. The Giants were 23 at half. And like I said, they kind of, sort of inched it back closer in the second half, but it was never really all that close. So, even though they lost, a shout out to the Cowboys. Well, not really, because I don't like the Cowboys. But for the Giants' standpoint, shout out to the Cowboys. Because with the Cowboys defeating the Eagles, and handedly, if I might say, though, and again, if you follow the Eagles, you know what they're dealing with defensively. You probably would have been wondering how they were going to cover the Cowboys pass catchers. Obviously, Andy Dalton hasn't been this good. Every game, this is kind of what they imagined when he kind of was going to be in there. Whether it was him or Dak, just like, hey, we have a lot of good receivers. We have a good running back. The line's obviously not what it was because it's hurt. But again, if you can get some time and make some plays on the outside, we don't think most teams can cover us. And the Eagles definitely fall into the most teams category because even while healthy, I think they were going to struggle to cover them. And like I said, if they had played Andy Dalton in the first game and not Ben DiNucci, maybe they lose that game as well. And like I said, both team seasons go a little bit differently. But like I said, the Cowboys put it on the Eagles 37-17. It was close in the first half. Obviously, the Eagles went out to the 14-3 lead after the big Deshaun Jackson touchdown. And then I believe the Cowboys went on. Let me make sure I do my math right. I believe they went on a 34-3 run from the second quarter on. Second quarter is really when Michael Gallup started to take over, had 2 touchdown catches in that quarter. One in the beginning of the quarter, one at the end of the quarter right before halftime to give them the lead, 2017, and they never looked back. CeeDee Lamb got a touchdown after half, got 2 touchdowns after the half. Actually, Amari Cooper had a long catch and run. Next day, they made Andy Dalton look at the Andy Dalton that the Cowboys thought they were getting when they signed him as the backup. Obviously, not the Andy Dalton he has been for majority of the season. Rough game for Jalen Hurts. Obviously, his worst game as a starter. Though, I mean, it wasn't like terrible though, because with the picks and the fumbles, the one fumble wasn't a fumble, but like I'm all in on Jamar Chase, so it is what it is. I wasn't really that mad about it. If that game mattered more, I would be much more upset about them calling that a fumble because his knees were clearly down. But whatever. But with the picks and stuff, like I was towards the end, he was kind of trying to force things a little bit down the field, trying to make some plays. Like that's going to happen sometimes. Again, you'd like him not to throw the interceptions, but sometimes that happens when you're down. Like the first one happened when they were down 11, trying to make a play after a big drive, and it was like 3rd and 12. So like I said, he's trying to force the ball into the end zone, didn't work out. They were able to get the ball back, then the fumble came. Then the last interception came after they were down 37-17. So again, the game's all but over. It is what it is. I'm not really going to get that upset about it. But again, you'd like for him not to turn the ball over 3 times, ideally. But hey, it is what it is. So because of that game, now both NFC East games matter next week. And that's why the Washington Eagles game got flexed into nighttime, because that game determines who goes to the playoffs. Like I said, the winner of Dallas Giants gets in if Washington loses. Washington gets in if they win. And so you have it. That's the game they picked as a Sunday night game. So as bad as the NFC East has been, still put us in the primetime slot. I don't know what that says about the NFL season or about the state of with the Week 17 games. If that's the game they had to pick. But, I mean, it's a kind of important game, unfortunately, for the rest of you that haven't watched a whole lot of NFC East football this year. I apologize in advance. So after we come back from this next break, we will discuss the AFC side of things and some very interesting games, some very interesting comebacks that happened on that side. So we'll be right back right after this.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast Network. So, like I said, AFC side of things. I guess where should we start? We shall start with the Chiefs. We'll start with the Chiefs and the Falcons, because Steelers Colts was wild, Dolphins Raiders was wild, but we'll start with the Chiefs. Because again, this game locked up the 1 seed, if I remember correctly, for the Chiefs. And I mean, it was just a wild one, to say the very least. I mean, there was there was really no reason the Chiefs should have won this game. But other than the fact that they're the Chiefs, and this is what they do, they win close games. And then the Falcons. It's what they do. They lose close games. I mean, it's a match made in heaven. In this game, I mean, the Chiefs, obviously, the Mahomes' numbers don't look that bad, like, on paper, but the Chiefs weren't really able to do much of anything for most of the game, honestly. I mean, it was 7-7 at half. They only scored a touchdown, like, literally, like, right before the half ended to get it to 7-7, Travis Kelce, from Mahomes. But before then, they had a couple punts. Mahomes threw an interception. No, take it back. No, that was a Darryl. No, that was the Watkins interception. My bad. Mahomes threw the interception later. Should have thrown a second one, but we'll talk about that. That was the Sammy Watkins, like, a weird. It's like 4th and 1. For whatever reason, they were like, "Oh, let's get fancy," and like snapped it to Darryl Williams, who like handed it off to like Mahomes, who tossed it back to Sammy Watkins, who ran right and then tried to throw it back across the field to Mahomes. Keanu Neal ended up picking it off. I mean, he was probably better off not picking it off because of like the field position. But then they went down and scored anyway, so it didn't really matter. They got the ball to 2 and drove 98 yards. Like I said, this happened second half. What was I going to say? The second half starts with Mahomes throwing the interception that ends up getting returned like 50 yards, and then it gets knocked out of bounds eventually. And Belly said that was a great play. Then, of course, because the Falcons do what they do, they immediately went backwards. Got the ball at like the 50 and then immediately went backwards. Like I said, more punts and stuff. And then, like, later on, after the Chiefs got a field goal, Matt Ryan was able to put another drive together. Like, midway through the 4th, they get a touchdown. Laquan Treadwell did not realize he was on the Falcons, but hey, shout out to him. Got a touchdown, like, 4 minutes left, and you're like, probably too much time. But hey, you know what? The Chiefs haven't really played that well, who knows? So then the Chiefs drive down the field, as they do, because that's what Mahomes and them and those guys do. They had I think it was a 1st and 10 play from the 25-yard line. He throws it to the corner to, I believe it was Tyreek Hill. So it's Tyreek Hill. Throws it to the right corner. AJ Terrell goes up, catches it, falls to the ground, and the ball gets knocked out. And it was at that very moment I was like, oh, well, the Falcons just lost. Not because I knew the next play Mahomes was going to throw a touchdown pass, absolute strike, to Demarcus Robinson. Not because I knew that their kicker was going to miss a field goal, even though he's been sensational all season. The Falcons kicker, that is. Just because it's just how the Falcons do. Like, at some way, somehow, they were going to lose that game after they didn't secure that pick. Like, from that very moment, even if they secured the pick, I still had been a little shaky. But, I mean, we've seen the way the Falcons have lost games this year. Many of which they should have won. I mean, if I look through the Falcons schedule and go through the games they could have won. They should have won. You got the Cowboys game they should have won. The Bears game they should have won. So that's just 2 off top. They should have won the Lions game. This is just off the top of my head. So that's 3 games they should have won right there. I forget if they should have won they should have won the Bucks game. They were up big in that game. Didn't win that one. Let's see what other game. I think the Chargers game. They lost on the last second field goal. So like I said, that's 5 games right there. And mind you, the Falcons are 4-11. So 5 games. That is now you're talking about them being 9-6, 8-7, something like that, potentially in the playoff hunt. And again, you say the same thing about the Chargers. The Chargers have found ways to lose games in a numerous amount of ways as well. But like I said, as soon as they didn't come down with the pick, you knew that they were going to lose. So again, like I said, next play, touchdown pass, Mahomes is what they do, or what he does. Then the Falcons, because this is what they do, they drive down the field, get in the field goal position, and the kick was straight off the foot and then just sliced, as if it was some sort of divine intervention that the Falcons had to lose this game. And like I said, the kicker has been really good this year. So like I said, that makes it even more wild that they ended up missing the kick, because again, he's been really good. It'd be different if you were like, oh, their kicker's been bad all year, like it's a normal thing. Like this shouldn't be surprising. Not like he'd been like Gostkowski or somebody where he missed a bunch of kicks, Cody Parkey, like he hadn't been that. Like, he'd been really good this year. But of course, because he's on the Falcons, of course he missed a kick to tie the game. Like, of course, that's exactly what was going to happen. So like I said, the Chiefs continue to win games close, But again, good teams win games. I mean, better teams cover, but like good teams win games. And like I said, the Chiefs, no matter how much they're down, how much they're up, doesn't matter. Generally speaking, they find ways to win, which is always dangerous. On top of the fact that they have the best quarterback in the league, arguably this season, because obviously Aaron Rodgers has been great, and so is Josh Allen. But like I said, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. Like I said, that's always going to be tough to beat. And like I said, now they've secured the 1 seed. You can get the bye. Let's see what happens there. Only got to win 2 games. The team's got to go through Arrowhead and gain weight to get the Super Bowl. Like I said, you're going to feel confident in the Chiefs in that scenario 9 times out of 10. So again, we got going to have to do it. And that's the other point about it is like you don't get extra points in the playoffs or during the regular season for winning games by 5, 10, 15, 20. Like again, the Packers won their game comfortably. Chiefs won their game close. Both, at the end of the day, get one more win in the win column. Like I said, I know there's been a lot of talk about that and how they're like winning games close and different things. And again, you could say the same thing about the Steelers, was kind of seeing them. They kind of faltered the last couple of weeks. When, like I said, a lot of people said their 11-0 record was rather fraudulent, and it was starting to look like that. But again, the Chiefs just keep finding ways to win games. Will it catch up to them? We'll have to wait and see. But as of this point right now, it's led them to the 1 seed. So hey, who am I to argue against the process? But speaking of those Steelers, they had to put together a nice little comeback of their own against the Colts in a game that looked like they were done for. Like I said, they've been struggling the last few weeks, had lost 3 in a row. They were down, 24-7 early in the third and 21-7 at halftime in this game on Sunday against the Colts. And it was like, oh wow, are they going to lose out to end the season after being 11? Are they going to finish the season 11-5 and not even win the division? Now, again, that doesn't matter because, the Browns had to catch an L to the Jets. We'll talk about that in a second as well. But yeah, like I said, it was looking bad for them. And then Big Ben turned it on. Like I say, end of the day with 342 yards, 3 touchdown passes. All 3 came in the second half. 2 of them came in the fourth quarter. And, I mean, like I said, their offense just got it clicking. Turned it on, got going. Their defense held it down. Did what they had to do late in that game to be able to secure the victory. And boom, you got yourselves a win. Like I said, they got the pick off of Phillip Rivers with like 6 minutes left. Mike Hilton got the pick. Like I said, this was like right after the Steelers had gone up on the touchdown to Juju Smith-Schuster. So like I said, that was a very big play. The Steelers unfortunately had the punt. Colts get the ball back. They drive down, and then Alex Highsmith was able to force a little pressure on 4th and 8 after the Colts had kind of gotten down the field on some penalties and different things and some big T.Y. Hilton plays, things like that. But like I said, Alex Highsmith put a nice little spin move on the left tackle, able to get some pressure. Phillip was Russell's throw, and it was a little bit off target. It was off target, heading towards Zach Pascal, and boom. Like I said, the Colts ended up losing, which was a tough one because, like I said, they could have been in the lead in the division with the Titans losing to the Packers here tonight. So like I said, that's a tough one. They're still not 100% secure in their playoff spot, which is, again, not where you want to be week 17. Like I said, they could still get in. They could still not get in. Like I said, that's not necessarily ideal. And as of right now, they're on the outside looking in because they are currently the 8th seed with 5 teams currently at 10-5. So a 10-win team is going to miss the playoffs in the AFC, while a 6-10 Giants team could make the playoffs in the NFC. Just luckily draw this year. So like I said, yeah, the Colts on the outside looking in, which is unfortunate. So they're going to need to win their game and get some help from some of the other guys above them in terms of losing their games in order to get in. And like I said, we'll kind of see how that goes. Because again, you got like a Browns team who just lost to the Jets, though they had like a bunch of receivers out because of like COVID and different things. So that's not going to happen next week in theory. But again, still probably shouldn't lose to the Jets, but they did. And they're going to be facing the Steelers next week, who have won the division, are locked into they aren't locked into the 2 seed. That's the thing. Like, they could be either the 2 or the 3, depending on how these last 2 weeks go for the Bills. So I said they're still going to be trying, and then obviously you have the chance to knock out a division rival for their shot at the playoffs. You always going to relish in that. So, like I said, the Browns have a tough loss, tough game ahead of them. The Dolphins, they play the Bills next week. The Dolphins, we'll talk about the Raiders game for a second here. The game, for a majority of it, was like kind of Tua wasn't really doing a whole lot. Derek Carr wasn't really doing a whole lot. And then the fourth quarter happened. And we had, 5 different scores in the last 4 minutes of the game. Like I said, up until that point, it was 16-13. The Raiders were winning. And then fourth quarter, they put in Fitzmagic. Like I said, Tua kind of he hadn't been terrible, but he hadn't really been getting the job done, unfortunately. So I was like, hey, we'll go for a spark, see what we can do. And Fitzmagic, like he does, did provide that spark. So like I said, he had the field goal drive. Then, like the next drive, the Raiders get the long 85-yard touchdown pass to Nelson Aguilar. Then the Dolphins come back. Their next drive get a nice little short pass to Myles Gaskin, who breaks some tackles and runs down the sideline for a 60-yard touchdown pass there. So like I said, back and forth scoring at this. And also, mind you, the Raiders missed the extra point on the Aguilar touchdown, which proved to be very important. Again, that's why having a good kicker is very good, especially in the NFL. And in general, but definitely in the NFL. So like I said, so now the Raiders are down 22-23. They drive down the field, and they do the one thing I always hate and never advocate for, and that is playing for the field goal. So they got down close, and I believe they got down close after a deep pass to Aguilar that they call pass interference on. It was a little ticky-tacky, but what they call it is what it is. Then they were able to get it to eventually. They were first and goal at the 8. They run up the middle. Josh Jacobs gets sort of kind of tackled. Then the next play, he goes up the middle for 5. It just falls down after the Dolphins called their last time out. So like I said, now they're just trying to run the clock out to kick the field goal at the very end and win the game, basically. Now, again, the reason why I don't like this is because when you score the touchdown, you make the other team have to score a touchdown to beat you. Like I said, I get it. Like, it's backfired on certain teams. We saw it with the Penn State, Indiana situation. Saw it with the Falcons. I think it was the Falcons and the Lions. And again, did they both teams lose? Yes. But in both instances, those defenses both instances, the other opposing offense had to drive down the field and score. You could have easily stopped them at any point prior to that. Like I said, the Raiders decided, we're going to run the clock out, play for field goal, cool. They end up doing that, kick the field goal with 12 seconds left. Boom. All right, you think the game's won. Yeah, of course you do. And then 20 seconds left, I should say. The Dolphins get the ball back. First play, they run a cover 2. Don't know why, but they run a cover 2. The corner does not get depth, as the only receiver on his side really runs completely past him. Fitzpatrick throws up a punt, basically. Matt Collins stands there and just catches it and goes out of bounds. And he got his face mask pulled. So, basically a no-look pass. But again, on top of the 34-yard gain, they got an extra 15 tacked on to the end of it. And that, like I said, that put the Dolphins in field goal range. They threw like a one pass. It didn't really matter. Then they kicked the field goal. And boom, the Raiders lose. And you know why they lost? Because all the Dolphins needed was a field goal to win. Like I said, I understand if Josh Jacobs scores like a minute 50, all right, you got a minute 50, and the defense hadn't really showed the ability to stop the Dolphins in that fourth quarter, especially towards the end. So I get it. But when only a field goal can, when you need a touchdown to beat you, that's much harder to do, obviously, because you don't need to you need to literally get in the end zone. A field goal, if you're a good field goal kicker, you can get 50, 55 yards away and kick a field goal and win. Like I said, no guarantee. A lot of things that happen, but again, when you need a touchdown, you literally have to get into the end zone to score. So again, you're asking the Dolphins to drive 75, 80 yards, how many ever yards, a minute 50, no timeouts. Not to say it's impossible, but again, you need to get into the end zone. So, like I said, I never advocate for playing for the field goal, but that's what the Raiders decided to do, and it's going to cause them to be sitting home come January because they were eliminated from the playoffs with that loss. So, again, would not be what I would have done. But that's what they decided to do. Hey, shout out to you. It didn't work. Is what it is. So yeah, looking around then like I said, the last game I'll talk about in the AFC, or last 2 games, are the Bears-Jaguars, just because again, that game doesn't matter. The Bears dominated, have themselves in position to get into the playoff spot, get that 7th seed. And again, you get hot at the right time, anything can happen. I'm not saying I expect Mitch to bring them to Super Bowl, but he's been playing a lot better. The defense has been playing solid. You never know. Like I said, you don't want to be the team that gets hot right before the playoffs. Though, like I said, we'll see what they look like next week because they're going to have to go through Green Bay at some point if they're going to make it to the playoffs. And if, like I said, if they can't beat Green Bay next week, I will not say I won't take them serious, but again, I'll put a little bit more caution on it. But yeah, like I said, they smoked the Jaguars badly, and that locked the Jaguars into the number 1 seed because, like I talked about, the Jets, unsurprisingly, in my opinion, because of, like I said, the injuries and things that the Jets were dealing with, the Browns are dealing with, in a vacuum, that's not a game the Browns are supposed to lose. But unfortunately they did, and again, shout out to the Jets. They've been playing hard the last few weeks, as I've said, they should be, they should have won 3 of their last 4 games. Like I said, the Seahawks game, they got smoked, is what it is. They should have won that Raiders game if not for Greg Williams. Then they beat the Rams last week, then they beat the Browns. We'll see what happens with the Patriots next week, because that's a winnable game in theory, because the Patriots are eliminated from playoff contention. They're not as good as they've been in years past. Not saying they're going to win, but again, they've been playing better. Not impossible. But like I said, that game knocked the Jets out of the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. It is now officially, we can have a winner, I should say, officially, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Shout out to them. Shout out to Trevor, I guess, let them to move that far as from Georgia, I believe, going to school in South Carolina. So then just stay in the South and play in Jacksonville. Also got DJ Chark, James Robinson, some nice, Laviska Shenault, got some nice pieces there. Don't know who the coach is going to be, because again, it might be Doug Marrone, so it might be somebody else. We'll just kind of see what happens there. But I said he'll probably be the number 1 pick, barring something crazy happening in the next few months. I don't know, maybe they become enamored with Zach Wilson, who knows. But Trevor Lawrence, that's what it should be. So now the Jets are out of that, and again, Jets fans are feeling different about it. Obviously, you want to see your team play hard to end the season. And obviously, some of them wanted Trevor Lawrence. Some of them were like, hey, we could just get, Sewell, which is weird because they have Becton, and I don't know which one of them will play right tackle, but I guess that's if you have 2 great tackles, that's not a bad problem to have. I guess you could get, Jamar Chase, or Michael Parsons, or somebody else, Russo, or Surtain, or somebody. Or, again, if you like a quarterback, and you don't think Darnold is the answer, which, again, the next coach might not, because I imagine Adam Gase won't be there. Then again, you got Justin Fields, you got Zach Wilson, you got Trey Lance. Again, you got options. So when you don't get Trevor Lawrence, which is obviously not ideal, because you don't lose all the games in a row the Jets lost to then not get the best player. That hurts. But then, in fairness, the Jaguars have lost just as many games. They've lost 14 in a row now after winning the first game against the Colts. It's still crazy that happened. But they're 1-14, so they've lost 14 in a row now. But again, for the players that sucks, but for the team. For the fans, obviously, you get Trevor Lawrence out of it, so hey, look, you can deal with the 14 losses in a row. You knew what the season was about, from a rebuild standpoint. Like I said, the Jets, they feel a little bit differently, and again, they might have their quarterback, they might not. Obviously, you knew Gardner Minshew was not really going to be the guy. Once he got benched for Mike Glennon, I forget exactly what happened with the quarterback situation down in Jacksonville, but regardless, he's not playing, and he's not the future. Trevor Lawrence is. And again, with the Jets, a little bit different. Obviously, Adam Gase hasn't helped. Sam's been injured and things like that. So maybe he could be the guy, maybe he could not. I guess the next coach not GM, because Joe Douglas will still be there. The next coach will have to figure that out. But yeah. And so, important game, let's say, this past weekend for the number 1 pick and the future of Trevor Lawrence had now been finalized. He should be heading to Jacksonville. Again, long time, see if anything changes, but at this point in time right now, I guess he's going to Jacksonville. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But yeah. Football is not the only sport we had this weekend. Obviously, since we last spoke, there's been a lot of basketball that's been played. A lot of things to take away. A lot of teams that look good, look bad. Players look good, players look bad. So we'll talk about that after we come back from the break. We'll split up like we do the NFL. Just again, there's a lot to talk about. So we'll go Eastern Conference first, and then we'll move on to the West. So start with the Eastern Conference right after the break. Stay right there.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back again on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. So, after 3 games for some teams, obviously, some teams played 1, some teams played 2, some teams played 3. But for most teams, through 3 games in the NBA season, as we all expected, the Cleveland Cavaliers are at the top of the Eastern Conference standings. Obviously, again, it's early. It's not that big of a deal, but, maybe it is. We'll see. Like I said, we'll see about that. Like I said, the Cavs have played great. Granted, they played the Cavs twice. And, oh wait, no, hold on, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Excuse me, that is my bad. They've played the Hornets, they played the Pistons, and they played the Sixers, who were playing without Embiid today. But still, I don't think you expect them to lose by, double digits. But it is what it is. And their young guards, especially, have been killing it. Consex is averaging 27 and, 4 through the first 3 games, shooting 60% from the field and 67% from 3. Obviously, it's not sustainable, but again, nice start to see Darius Garland's been good, averaging 19 and 8 through the first 3 games. Then he's shooting 55% from the field, 50% from 3. Again, not sustainable most likely, but again, nice start. Andre Drummond, who's looking good, averaging 20 and 15, 11 defensive rebounds. 20 and 15 with 4 assists through 3 games. So again, their front line's looking good. I mean, JaVale McGee's adding in some good points. Osman's been playing well. Kevin Love's been all right to start the season off. Larry Nance's been all right to start the season off. And so again, we'll kind of see how it goes, but I thought that was kind of an interesting thing because, again, when you think of the best teams, you're thinking of the Heat, thinking of the Celtics, you're thinking of the Nets, you're thinking of the Sixers, you're thinking of the Bucks. Like I said, through 3 games, the Cavs are at the top of the Eastern Conference standings. So again, is that probably going to hold? Maybe, maybe not. But at the very least, it seems as if, barring health and things like that, then the Cavs are at least going to be competitive, which is obviously a far cry from what they've been recently, especially since LeBron left. So again, that would be a nice little thing to see from their perspective. So shout out to them. Looking good. The Magic, also a team looking good. Granted, again, they've beaten the Wizards twice. They beat the Heat, the defending Eastern Conference champs, in the first game. Evan Fournier looked good in that one. Markelle Fultz didn't have his best game that game, but he's been good this season through 3 games, looking like a first overall type player, which is again what he was pegged as. And he's still a young guy, obviously deal with the injuries and different things while in Philly, and still trying to work through that. But he's only 22 years old, doesn't turn 23 until the end of May next year in 2021. So again, a very, very, very young player who was worthy of the number 1 pick at one time. So again, the talent was still there. You had to just work through some things. Obviously, maybe the lack of pressure, because again, with the Sixers, obviously they were a playoff team. Not that the Magic aren't, but they were they needed an immediate contributor. Like I said, could he, if he's on the team, do they draft a guy like Maxey? Probably not. And maybe they don't go out and get Seth Curry and things like that, or maybe they don't have Shake Milton. Who knows? But again, they needed a guy that could handle the ball, could shoot a little bit, could create his own offense, things like that. And that's what he's looking like he could do here. So again, it stinks for the Sixers because obviously they had this guy and had to let him go. But it's good for the Magic. It's good for Markelle. It's like I said, in back-to-back games against the Wizards, one without Russ, but he got 20 points back-to-back games. Been shooting well from the field, over 50% in those 2 games. Had a couple steals, a couple rebounds, a couple assists, things like that. So again, been looking good. Scoring's been there. The shot has been there, which is again what you were worried about the most. Is how is the shot going to look? And the shot has been looking all right. At least again, that's the only limited amount of games, but the shot has been looking all right, which is again what you would like to see. So that's good. Like I said, the Magic have looked all right to start the season off. Speaking of the Heat, they are 1-1 right now. But probably one of the bigger surprises is that the Bucks are 1-2 to start the season. Like I said, that's not where they're supposed to be. Again, they probably get it together. It is what it is. But again, they lost to the Celtics in the first game. That was a tough one. Obviously, the Jason Tatum step back three off the glass, like he didn't call that, but again, it goes in. And then Giannis on the other end misses his second free throw when he got to the line for 2 free throws to end the game. That extended to overtime, I should say. And he made the first one, the second one a little bit short. Not a little bit short, barely hit the front row. But you get the point. Like I said, that's not the ideal start to the Bucks season. Obviously, post big contract for Giannis. That's again not how you want to start. But again, it's still early. Not going to write off the Bucks yet. But I will say them losing by 14 to the Knicks, or 20 to the Knicks, excuse me. That's not good because Giannis played, Chris Middleton played, Drew Holiday played, DiVincenzo, like Brook Lopez, like all their guys were playing, and they got smoked by the Knicks. Now the Knicks haven't been god awful to start the year. And I said they lost to the Sixers, that was kind of bad, and like the Pacers, the game just got away from them. But Julius Randle killing in this game. Alfred Payton was killing in this game. Alec Burks was killing in this game. RJ Barrett was great the first game, bad second game, was somewhere in the middle of this third game. So again, he's been looking solid. We're trying to think, who's there? Oh, Toppin, he got hurt, so he's not playing right now. But again, Julius Randle showing out 29-14 against the Bucks. I don't know who saw that coming. But again, yeah, just again, not anything too crazy, but it's something to be mindful of. Speaking of something to be mindful of, the Nets are going to struggle defensively. Now, I know I've said that, and again, obviously they played the Warriors. Like, that's not really a good test because the Warriors stink. They needed a last-second 3 to beat the Bulls today, who also stink. So again, that tells you everything you need to know about where the Warriors are going to be at the season. It's going to be a long season for them and for Steph, which we will talk about in the next segment. But yes, they played them and played the Celtics, who they had smoked in the preseason, this being the Nets, and they did that again in the regular season. So that was good. And again, you want to compete against these types of teams for the best of the best in the conference, and you want to show that you're better than them. But then in this game against the Hornets, again, KD and Kyrie combined 54 points. The issue is that Gordon Hayward had 18, Terry Rozier had 19, PJ Washington had 14. All their starters were in double figures, and then Miles Bridges came off the bench for 10 and a couple big shots late in that game. So that was really their big issue is that in the first half they weren't able to ever really pull away, and then like I said, just playing close games. We're playing the Hornets close, like letting them hang around, never really able to like fully extend the lead. Now fourth quarter time comes, like some guys hit a couple shots. Yes, like I said, the Nets are down big, and they need to mount a comeback to just even try to win the game. Like I said, I think they were down like 13-14 or something like that heading into at some point in the fourth quarter, which again is not ideal. Again, it's one game, no necessarily a big deal. And obviously Kevin Durant missed the shot there at the end that would have tied it, which is again a little ironic based on Kyrie saying that he now is a guy that he can trust to take that shot, and Kyrie was wide open at the top of the key. But again, we'll see how that goes as the games go forward. Because this is their first real late game situation because the last 2 games they smoked the teams they played. So again, we'll kind of see how that goes and how they decide back and forth who gets to pick or who gets to take that last shot. But yeah, so like I said, not the best game for the Nets, but again, we'll see kind of how that plays out, how it goes forward. Also, they lost Spencer in this game. See how serious that injury is. Also, this is a non-necessarily non-Eastern Conference point, but it's like an overall NBA point, and something to be mindful of this year is like a lot of guys like kind of sat today. Like Anthony Davis sat out with the calf. Embiid was out with like rest-ish stuff. I believe, if I remember correctly, I forget why he was out officially. But I thought he was kind of just like trying to rest up. And obviously, they could use him against Drummond, clearly, because that would have been that would have definitely helped them defend the paint a little bit. Seeing as Drummond, like I said, had a solid game, they ended up losing by over 20 to the Cavs, which you're not supposed to do. But I said Russ sat out. Kawhi obviously got hit in the face, so that's why he sat out. But this is, and I think KD and Kyrie were talking about maybe sitting out, or having KD maybe sit out the second game of the back-to-back that they play against Memphis, I believe, on Monday. So, it's something to be mindful of, or just pay attention to as the season goes on, just like how teams manage the rest of their stars. Like I said, it's a shorter season. It's a season that's happening a lot quicker than it normally would have for a lot of teams. So, like I said, some of the bad teams, all right, it doesn't really, like, not say the rest doesn't matter, but again, they didn't have to worry about that because they were bad, and also, like, again, they don't have, like, the star caliber players that would be needing these off days. But again, you still want to manage everybody's minutes, make sure everybody's healthy for the long haul. But again, it's just something I personally am going to be paying attention to because, again, with the season coming back so quickly, you're going to want to make sure guys are ready and fresh and stay healthy for the duration of the season. So you're not going to want to, like, force guys into playing so many games so quickly, kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how guys manage the injuries, and some injuries that maybe, like, you could play through, or you'd be like, let's sit this game out or sit that game out. And like I said, make sure you're all good, as opposed to, like I said, maybe during a full season, you might try to play through it or whatever. I don't know. I said that would be something at least I will be keeping my eye on, just because, again, like you saw a bunch of guys resting today for various reasons, or not playing today. I don't want to say resting, but not playing today for various reasons. So I said, just you'll see how legitimate those reasons are, if they're like legit injuries, if they're like more rest related. Well, again, be something to be mindful, load management related. Something to be mindful of, and like I said, pay attention as the season goes on. I'm trying to think what else in the Eastern Conference is like kind of surprising, really. Pacers looking good. Again, not too surprising because they're a playoff team. They have good players. And again, they play the Knicks and the Bulls in the first two games, but they did beat the Celtics today. Today being Sunday. And Sabonis continues to play well. Had himself yet another double-double. This time it was 19 and 10, so not exactly, he's been shut on a little bit more than that in the other games, but like I said, another solid game for him. He had 32 and 13 against the Knicks, and then 10 rebounds, 11 assists against the Bulls. Nice little triple-double. So he's been good for them, and he was their best player last year, was an all-star last year, so not surprising that he's playing this well. Shout to him. I liked them coming out. I was happy when the Thunder got him, and then obviously they traded him for Paul George and like whatever. But he would be a nice guy to have. But we have Bazing now, so I'll live. He looked good. Brogdon looked good. So again, the Pacers, just like they were last year, are going to be a tough out. Like I said, they may not be the most talented team, may not be the best team, and probably not going to win like the conference or anything. But again, you could say the same thing about the Heat last year. No one thought they were going to be that good and win it all. Well, it all being the Eastern Conference. But at the very least, like I said, they got solid players that know their role, know what they're good at, and play well around each other. They didn't even have Oladipo in this game, and like I said, they beat the Celtics with basically 8 guys. And yeah, like I'm saying, like they're a very solid team, and like I said, they've shown that over the years. They continue to show that, and again, to start the season, still just started the season, nothing too major, nothing too crazy. I says we're 3 games in. Not going to overreact over 3 games, but just something, there's some takeaways, some things I've seen, some nice plays, things like that. Just like I said, just wanted to highlight that as we get going and we get ramped up to start the NBA season. So, like I said, shout out to them. But again, it'll be interesting to see kind of if some of these things start out hot, will we be able to keep it up? Like I said, will the Cavs, will the Hawks who are 2-0, will the Magic, like I said, Pacers be able to keep it up? Or will it kind of fall back to the pack a little bit? And like I said, the teams that start out a little bit slow that are supposed to be good, like the Celtics, they're 1-2. The Bucks are 1-2. The Heat are 1-1. Like I said, well, the Wizards are 0-3 right now to start the season. A lot of that stemming from the fact that Russ can't hit a shot to save his life right now. Getting the triple doubles though, but like his shot not there, and he, like I said, he got the rest on Sunday. So it is what it is there. But like I said, some of those teams when they start getting it figured out as the season goes on, and get themselves back in the playoff race, which obviously they plan to be in come later in the season. So we'll just have to pay attention to that and see how that goes going forward. So after this next break, we'll come back and flip over to the Western Conference and discuss that side. Like I said, takeaways, surprises, disappointments so far, things like that. So we discuss all that right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Obviously, can't really talk about this because OKC's only played one game, but they are technically at the top of the conference. So, see how long that holds up. Seeing as they are actively trying to tank, or at least I hope they're actively trying to tank. I would appreciate if they're actively trying to tank. Though, shout out to Shea, but yeah, that game winner against the Hornets, wow, cool. Even though they did almost blow that lead, I mean, it was about to be an elite. I'm talking Jets level against the Raiders tank loss. They were up, I think, like 12 or 13 with like 2 minutes left. They just let the Hornets make all these shots in a row. And then they literally needed a game winner from Shea to even pull that game off in regulation. So, again, shout out to him. Because, again, that's what you want to see. It's the first game as the main guy on the team. And he comes down. They draw the play up for him. He hits the game win. That's what you want to see. Again, don't need to see that too often this year because, as we've discussed, like the Warriors are going to be bad. The Bulls are going to be bad. Like, there are going to be some teams that are going to be worse than the Thunder are. So that's going to make it a little bit harder to tank. But still, hopefully, like I said, once George Hill and Al Horfords are off the team, maybe even Mike Muscala, they'll be fine. Because that bench lineup, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Only a few of those guys will probably be in the rotation once they get good. But obviously, Bazley, Dort, Shea, that there are worse places you could start a rebuild at than with those three kind of pieces. I don't say like cornerstones, because I don't know if I consider Dort a cornerstone. Bazley, the upside is there and is pretty good if he can knock down the shot consistently. And like Shea, don't know how good he will be. I don't know if he'll be like the best player on a championship team level good, but like he could be of like at least a 2. And I mean, if he's your third best player, like your team is amazing. So. Like I said, we'll see how that plays out. But like I said, they're the number one in the conference right now just because they haven't lost yet. Like, that doesn't really count. So, on the positive side of things, shout out to the Kings. Because, again, the other teams at the top, like the Pelicans, you thought they were going to be good. The Lakers, you thought they were going to be good. Clippers, you thought they were going to be good. Though we'll talk about them getting smoked by, like, 50 today. Because that can't happen. But I said, shout out to the Kings. Shout out to the Kings. They are currently, 2-1 in the year. They lost to the Suns on Sunday, but they beat the Suns on Saturday, beat the Nuggets in a game that like the Nuggets kind of sort of had won, and then like it went to overtime. And the Kings had won. Excuse me. They got out to the big lead, and then the Nuggets had to put together a little bit of a comeback in the fourth in order to force it to overtime. So shout out to them for forcing it to overtime. But then, like I said, in overtime, they had a chance there to drop the game-winning play. The ball gets stolen, and then they're able to get a shot off on the other end. The Kings Harrison Barnes went up for a nasty slam. I think I'm pretty sure Will Barton got a piece of the ball, which is kind of crazy. And in the midst of everything, guy goes up to yam it on you, and you're able to block it. Shout out to Will Barton. Unfortunately, no one was back there to box out Buddy Hield. He tips it in, and the Nuggets lose that game. That's how they lost their first game of the season. And like I said, the Kings came back the next game against the Suns and beat a very solid Suns team, at least on paper. We think it's going to be very solid. Fox looked good, 24-7. I guess it's really just an overall solid team. Again, kind of like the Hornets. Everyone in their lineup that started had double figures. But he had 14 on 4 of 14. So again, he didn't even shoot that well. So had double figures. Harrison Barnes at 11. Bagley at 13 and 11. Rashawn Holmes at 11 and 9. Bielitsa had 12 off the bench. So again, they're not like great. They're probably still not going to be great. But again, they were a competitive team for majority of the season last year. So not them being competitive to start the year isn't shocking. But again, when you're beating teams like the Suns and like the Nuggets, who are supposed to be some of the better teams in the conference, that's a bit interesting, at least to say the least. At least in my opinion. So I'm going to say shout out to them for doing what they have to do and getting those wins. Because like I said, those aren't going to be easy. The West is going to be very tough this year. I mean, there's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams currently at 2-1. And 2 more teams at 1-1. So again, the West, as we kind of expected, is going to be competitive. Now, I mean, top to bottom, don't know how many elite level teams there are in the West, but like competitive wise, it's going to be pretty good. So like I said, going to the Clippers. I understand Kawhi sat out because he was injured. That's fine. Still, the Mavs have like not looked that good this year. Literally, this is their first win. And they were up, I think, 77-27 against the Clippers at halftime. Like literally the largest deficit in the history of the sport. Going back years and years and years. Like the biggest deficit, I believe, like ever at halftime. So again, I understand Kawhi is their best player. But like they're paying a lot of guys a lot of money to be better than this. Like I said, everybody else played. Batum, Paul George, Kennard, Serge, Pat Bev, Lou Will, Zubats. Like everybody else was playing. It was just Kawhi because of the DNP, because of the Mouse situation. That does not excuse you giving up 77 points and a half and only scoring 27. Like again, these are professionals here. Like you expect that like a really good college, like probably women's, but like just because again the talent gap between like the best and the worst is, in my opinion, a little bit bigger than it is in men's. Even though again, there's still a big gap in men's, but you get the point. Like so that's a score you'd expect in like a women's basketball game, like a UConn or like a UConn, like South Carolina when they were really good, Notre Dame, like one of those elite level schools versus like a lower level school. That's what you kind of expect. You're not supposed to be down 50 at halftime in a professional game and like lose 127-73. Like that's not supposed to happen. 124, excuse me, to 73. That's not supposed to happen. Like that's high key embarrassing. And like, again, it's not even like Luka was like amazing at 24, 9, and 8. Like that's a cool Luka game. Josh Richardson at 21, Tim Hardaway Jr. at 18. But just like they were just letting everybody score. Like I said, I think only one player didn't score that got minutes for the Mavs in this game. That's how bad it was. So that is interesting because like the Clippers can't be this bad if something happens to Kawhi. Like I said, they're not going to be great. I get that. Like I don't expect them to be great because Kawhi is obviously their best player. Like, all right, I'm fine. I can get behind that. But you're not supposed to be this bad. You're not supposed to be lose by 50 bad. Like that shouldn't happen if everyone else on your team is playing. It's just Kawhi that's out. And again, obviously, I think it was an early start for them, like one of those like noonish games. So like I get it, but like still, they should not be this bad. They should never be lose by 50 bad. So that's an interesting thing. You're going to have to pay attention to that. Because again, the Clippers were 2-0 heading to that game. And beat the Nuggets and beat the Lakers. But still, like losing by 50 to the Mavs, who hadn't looked that good to open the season, not ideal. Like we already talked about with the Warriors, they're going to be... I'm going to say, pray for Steph. That's all I'm going to say. Because that team is going to be so bad. Like, I think Kelly Oubre hasn't... I think they said he hasn't made a shot that isn't a dunk. Or something like that. Like, he's shooting, like, some of the worst percentages, like, ever to start the season. For guys, like, logging a lot of minutes. He's starting for them. I think, okay, so he is shooting a astounding 0% from 3 to open the season. He has taken 17 threes, missed all of them. He's shooting 17.5, excuse me. I'll give him the 0.5. 17.5% from the field. 7 of 40. I believe someone said that he's literally only made dunks. He has not made a non-dunk shot attempt to open the season. Again, obviously he's an NBA player. It's not going to keep up But, like, the fact that that's even a thing is, like, kind of a problem. Yeah. And like I said, that's maybe the Warriors' second best player. Like, maybe it's their third. Again, James Wiseman, you can't say that. Well, James Wiseman, we don't know what he's going to be officially yet. Wiggins hasn't really been that great either to start the season, to be honest. He's getting paid a lot of money to not score that many points. He's shooting, better than Oubre, but still, he's only shooting like 33% from the field and 31% from three. To start the season. So, again, not ideal. Obviously, Draymond's not out there yet, but, like, he's not going to help a whole lot in the scoring department. Steph's really out there, like, by himself. It's going to be a rough season for him. I'm not going to lie to you. Hope he's ready. Because they are not going to win very many games, barring something miraculous happening. So they're not that good, which, again, people thought they could compete. Obviously, once Clay was out, you knew they were going to be worse. You didn't think they were going to be this bad. Again, but like they might be this bad again with Steph on the floor. But again, they don't really have that many good players on the team. And also another thing I thought was interesting was like the Rockets. And again, obviously they were missing a lot of guys when they played the Warriors. They didn't have John Wall, didn't have Boogie, didn't have a couple other guys. So I think they played with literally like 9 guys. But the one thing I will say is that I guess I have more than one thing to say. You get the point. James Harden. Still looks good. Don't know how much he trained. Don't know how much he took the offseason serious. But he can literally just walk out of bed. It seems like and get 35 points in his sleep, basically. First game, it's no real training camp. Was out partying and doing whatever, trying to, do all the, trying to get caught up with the COVID. Not trying to catch COVID, but like caught up with all the, enjoying himself and partying, going to different things, going to celebrate people's birthdays and going to clubs that aren't like gentlemen's clubs or whatever. And yet still, first game of the season comes out 44 and 17 assists on 12 of 22 shooting. And made 6 threes. If they can get the pieces back, and like they didn't have Eric Gordon in this game either, like if they can get everybody back and like playing, like they could be fine. Plus also, Christian Wood, again, it's one game, but 31 and 13 in his first game, 12 of 22 shooting. Again, he's a guy that has gotten better as his career has gone on. Obviously, in Detroit, he really started showing out a little bit more with some of his stats. And also, he was kind of, did not realize he was like, that's 8 games. That doesn't really count. But he was good with the Pelicans, too. I'm going to say, especially towards the end, he really started upping his game during his tenure with the Pistons. And also that parlayed itself into this contract he got from the Rockets. And again, one game, not going to put a whole lot of stock in one game, but in the one game, he looked good, and he looked good alongside Harden. So like I said, if and when they get, like from the COVID stuff, if and when they get Eric Gordon back and get Boogie back and get John Wall back, if Harden wants to stay, they might be something. Don't know what it'll be. Again, we'll have to see all the pieces together first to really have an idea. But like I said, with those 3 coming back, if they're good, with Harden, with Christian Wood, if Daniel House can keep himself together, if Nwaba can start hitting the shot, obviously the defense is good. But like again, you got to come back from. I think he tore his Achilles. Got to come back from that. This Tate guy that they got, he was very solid in the first game. So again, they didn't win. They lost to the Blazers, who also haven't looked like stellar. But again, it helps when Dame's actually scoring points. And CJ McCollum's hitting 9 threes. Yeah, that'll win you a lot of games. Like I said, I think the Rockets, like I said, are they going to be like the best team in the West? Maybe not. But like I said, if Harden wants to be there, I think they can still be a very solid team once they get everybody back. Again, just based off of what I've seen from Christian Wood in the preseason and in the regular season. Like I said, once they get Boogie and Wall and those guys back, they could be something. So that'd be an interesting thing to keep in mind and pay attention to. I'm trying to think what else. Also, the Lakers, again, they played the Wolves, who actually were undefeated, I think, coming into this game. So it's not like they were a bad team. But outside the Clippers game, where they basically slept-walked through the first quarter, they're going to be a good. Like I said, on paper, we thought they were going to be good. They thought that they got better. They didn't even have AD in this game against the Wolves. Did not matter one bit because they have other guys that can step up and kind of handle the scoring load if AD has to go out and like not have the offense completely bogged down around LeBron. Let's see, Kuzma started in his place, had 20 points. Marcus Gasol had 12 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. Schroeder had 11, 4 and 4. Montrez had 12 off the bench. Horton Tucker had 12 off the bench. Like I said, they have their team is deep, is quite deep, and they have a lot of guys that could play. Not everybody's going to play every game, obviously, but they could play 10, 11 guys most nights if they wanted to. They might not always want to, and that's fair because that's a lot of guys to play. Like I said, if something happens, I mean, LeBron's a different story. As long as they have, but yeah, as long as they have one of them, like they have enough depth that they should be able to beat most teams. And again, it's hard to say because LeBron is obviously a great player. But like I said, if AD has to miss any extended period of time, they're not going to be as good, but they'll be fine. If LeBron's missed any extended period of time, they're not going to be great, but like they should be like fine as long as AD is playing. Like I said, as long as they have one of them, I think they have enough depth around them and enough solid NBA players around them. But again, good coaching. To where it should be all right. And again, that's kind of what you thought heading to the year. Like I said, they've blown out the Wolves, they've blown out the Mavs. I'm going to say they lost the game to the Clippers, but like I said, they lost the first quarter by 20 and only ended up losing the game by 7. Like I said, they don't sleepwalk through the first quarter. They might maybe win that game. I mean, they outscored them the rest of the way. If I want to double check that. So what was it? It was 35, 24, 35. 24 and 31. Shoot. Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure they outscored them the rest of the way. So, this is the math. Yeah, they outscored them, I think, by like 13 the rest of the way. Well, obviously, yeah, because they lost by 7. They outscored them by 13 the rest of the way. I could have done that math a lot easier. I used to be good at math, too. This is really a shame. I'm kind of embarrassed. But yeah, like I said, if they didn't sleepwalk through the first quarter, they might be 3-0 right now. Right where everybody thought they would be, as opposed to people kind of wondering, like, oh, like, what's up with them and the Clippers, blah, blah, blah. Like, no. Like, the Lakers are still fine. They're still a very deep team, probably still the best team in the West, on paper at least. But like I said, this game showed me that. It's like, again, they need to rest AD one day, they need to rest LeBron one day, whatever. As long as, again, if they miss an extended period of time, they're not going to be fine, but they shouldn't be like a complete disaster. Like they were before the 1 year where LeBron missed all that time with the groin. Like they didn't have the team around him built to handle LeBron being out for that long. But like I said, now they do. Like I said, we'll see how that goes. If anything happens there, like I said, I think they'll be all right. But yeah, some interesting things happening around the league through 3 games. Like I said, it's only 3 games. You're not gonna, like I said, you're not gonna really have a solid idea of how good any team is until like a couple months in, really. Or any player is until a couple months in, really, because again, teams have hot streaks, players have hot streaks. Like, like I said, don't make any sweeping observations or assumptions after a 3-game sample size. That's not nearly enough in any sport, let alone basketball or football or whatever. Like, you need more time, you need more games to really get a feel. So again, I'm just 3 games in, paying attention to what I'm seeing so far, liking what I'm seeing. Outside of the arenas, because again, the arenas like are fine, but just like it's weird watching. Like it was weird with no fans before, but like, again, in the NFL, that you're basically only ever on the field, so you don't ever notice the fans until they show the crowd. Like I said, because of the way, and baseball was the same way, but again, normally it's pretty quiet in between like pitches and stuff, so that's not like a huge deal. Outside the playoffs, obviously that was kind of sad, like no crowd for the playoffs. But like I said, like normally it's fairly quiet at a game, so that's not like a big deal. Like NBA games, like watching it visually without fans, and like when you're actually in a legit NBA arena, is very weird to me personally. But again, to each their own. Obviously, not everybody may feel that way, but that's how I feel. It's just weird. Not much you can do about it. They're not going to have fans in most places for most of the season. Like I said, when you're watching it on TV, aesthetically, it does not look great. But the game itself is great, so you gotta just focus on what's on the court, not what's surrounding it, and you shall be fine. And then speaking of should be fine, the Padres, really the first major move, question mark, of the MLB offseason, acquiring more pitching talent, which again makes sense, seeing as Clevenger is on the shelf for next year, most likely. So, like I said, they went out and acquired somebody. We'll talk about who it is, what they had to give up, things like that. And also, again, what it means for both teams, and also like what it may mean for MLB, like what the MLB offseason, because again, there hasn't really been a whole lot of high-profile movement And so maybe this will be the spark, or maybe, like I said, it's a one-off. Who knows? But we discuss all those things right after the break. Stay right there.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Former Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell is heading from the Rays, the AL pennant winners from the last year, took the Dodgers to 6 games, to the NL and the Padres. So he's going to be facing the Dodgers a lot more, funny enough. And we have the San Diego Padres. This is according to Jeff Passan of ESPN. The San Diego Padres are finalizing a trade to acquire former Cy Young Award winner Blake Snell from the Tampa Bay Rays for a top pitching prospect, Luis Patino, catchers Francisco Mejia, and Blake Hunt, and right-handed pitching prospect Cole Wilcox. Source familiar with the agreement told ESPN on Sunday the trade, which is pending medical reviews, would send the 28-year-old Snell to the Padres and was agreed upon exactly 2 months to the day of Game 6 of the World Series, in which he threw 5 1/3 billion innings only to be pulled. Tampa Bay wound up losing the game and the series to the Dodgers. Very famous. Not very famous, but you get the point. It was very talked about at the time. The Padres' aggressiveness has placed them in the middle of trade talks all winter, while there were discussions for potential deals with Chicago Cubs' Yu Darvish and Cincinnati Reds' Sonny Gray. Their focus turned to Snell, whose contract will pay him $39 million over the next 3 years, so really not that bad, honestly. Tampa Bay, whose history of trading for top pitchers include dealing James Shields, David Price, and Chris Archer, will receive a significant haul in return for Snell. Patino, who's 21, is the headliner. His fastball is like 97. Side considered one of the best in the minor leagues. In 17 1/3 innings last year, he had a 5.1 ERA. Struck out 21, and walked 14. Mia is 25, is a former top prospect who's kind of fallen out of favor in San Diego. Has some switch hitting pop. Wilcox is taking this year's draft out of Georgia. He received a high signing bonus, which is like a record for a third-round pick at the time. And Hunt is the least known of the four, but impressed in instructional ball this year is a big catcher, 6'3", 215, who, again, people think could be pretty good. We'll have to see how that goes. But again, because with prospect, you never really know. Like I said, you never really know. Like I said, if the White Sox knew how good Fernando Tatis Jr. was going to be, maybe they don't trade him for James Shields. You never know. But yeah, you live and you learn. You live and you learn. So this marks the second big deal for San Diego when it comes to pitcher ops. In the last few months, they acquired Mike Clevenger in August. He didn't throw that many innings because he got hurt. He had Tommy John surgery, and they don't expect him to come back until the next season. So again, here's another pitcher for them to have in 2022 when they should be really, really good. Like I said, you bring Snell in to add to Danielson Lamet, to Paddock, to Davies, and potentially Mackenzie Gore, who's regarded as the best left-handed pitching prospect in baseball. I mean, there are definitely worse rotations the Padres could have. And plus, when you have to compete with the Dodgers year after year after year, and you have to compete with that lineup year after year after year, even though some of the guys, like I don't know if Turner's still going to be there, or some other guys may not still be there. Like I said, you have to, Mookie Betts going to be there, Bellinger's going to be there, Corey Seager's going to be there. Who's the catcher? I can't remember what his name is. No, I'm really upset about this. I'm really going to have to look that up. But you guys know what I'm talking about. The catcher, Max Muncy's still going to be there. Oh. Is it Will? No, it's not Will Myers. Oh, I'm really upset that I don't remember what the catcher's name is. Like I said, you get the point. You're going to have to compete with them year after year after year. And in order to do that, you're going to have to, strike those guys out or get them out, generally speaking. So, Will Smith. That's what it was. Will Smith. That's what I was thinking of. But yeah, like I said, they got a lot of good young players that are going to be there for a while. So again, you got to make sure you have the guys that can get them out. And like I said, I don't know if this is the best rotation in baseball or anything like that. I'm not going to go that far. But having Snell, who's a very good pitcher, former Cy Young Award winner, having Lamet, who was very good last year, having Clevenger in 2 years, having Paddock, if he can kind of return to form, having Davies, who's a solid pitcher, and now obviously bringing in Gore, who's like a top pitching prospect, who should be really good, plus like some other guys that they have in their pipeline and in their rotation that are a little bit younger. And that sets you up to have a competitive rotation going up against the Dodgers and likes of the Dodgers for years to come. Because again, you could argue that the big thing that hurt them in this postseason was that they did not have their pitchers. Again, they were hurt, so it's a little bit different. But again, they didn't have the third and the fourth starter to get them through multiple series. Instead, it came back to bite them. Obviously, the offense is still great. So again, now you don't need the offense to be as great. If it is that great, then you're going to win a lot of games. But again, now if it's even if it ticks down a little bit, if the pitching's better, then that's still not a big dip. That's still not a big drop off, which is obviously what they're hoping for. So again, we'll see how it goes. But like I said, from the Padres standpoint, it makes total sense. They're trying to contend sooner rather than later. He's 28 years old. You have him under team control for 3 more years. And again, while he hasn't been Cy Young level since obviously his Cy Young award, he's still like a very solid pitcher. Obviously, we talked about pitch great in the postseason. So like he's not afraid of those kind of moments. And like I said, this year was better than 2019. He was really not that good, but this year he was very solid, 4-2, 3.24 ERA in 11 starts in the regular season. Had 63 strikeouts in those 50 innings. Because again, he wasn't really pitching that far into the games because of the whole bullpen situation. Like I said, very solid. And then when you got to the postseason, he was good, very good outside of the one Yankees game, honestly. Well, he lost the one game, but again, he was good in that game. It wasn't really his fault. Like I said, outside the one Yankees game, he was fairly solid. Fairly solid, I should say, excuse me. So yeah, like I said, that stinks. But, I mean, for him, or for the Rays to have to give him up. But again, for him going to the Padres, again, you go into another good team, another contending team, you could argue. And you get, that this is how the Rays do. And plus, you might be with a manager and coaches that will let you pitch 5, 6, maybe even 7 innings if you have it. Like I said, you're not going to have to follow whatever sort of analytical blueprint the front office or the manager has laid, or coach staff has laid out before the game, where it's like, hey, you get to this part of the lineup again, we're taking you out regardless of how well you're pitching. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, like I said, we'll see how he handles being able to pitch longer and more innings. But like I said, again, he's a former Cy Young Award winner. I think he'll be all right, personally. Like I said, pitched great in the World Series. Like I said, outside the one start, really pitched great for most of the postseason. And so, like I said, he's a big time pitcher. Like I said, he's a former frontline rotation guy. So that's kind of what you want. And from the Rays perspective, again, not surprising. This is what they do. They get guys, they get them good, then they trade them for more prospects. That's their thing. And again, it's not they didn't get any good prospects. This Luis, I don't know if I pronounced his name right, but Patino. I'm American, so I'm not gonna the little squiggle over the end. I forget how it sounds. I took a lot of Spanish in my life, but I still don't remember exactly how it sounds. But you get the point. He's a really good pitching prospect. Mejia and Hunt, like I said, they're both good prospect. I mean, he was supposed to be like a big time prospect. Kind of really hasn't lived up to that hype yet. But again, maybe a change of scenery will help. Like I said, the Hunt guy, apparently there's good things being said about him as well as a catching prospect, so we'll kind of see how that goes. But like I said, this is just what the Rays do. And again, they don't really pay a whole lot of people a lot of money, and don't keep guys around for that all that long. Because again, they have that good bullpen. As long as they have the bullpen, they figure they can get enough quality starters in terms of just like get them through 5 innings, and then they'll be all right. But again, kind of see how that goes. But again, they lost Morton as well. He went to the Braves. So like I said, losing him and then losing Snell. The rotation depth obviously takes a significant hit. They have one of the best farm systems in baseball. They have a great bullpen. So like they should be fine, relatively speaking. But again, in terms of like frontline starters, like those are some pretty big hits. Undertaking, especially for a team that just went to the World Series. Like it's not like they disappointed and it was a situation where it was like, maybe it's time to move on. Like no, like they were just in the World Series. And again, if you're a player, a position player, you're kind of like, whoa, like why would we do that? But again, this is just what the Rays do, unfortunately, for them and for the team and for the fan base, obviously, because again, you want to have good players. You develop and trade for good players for them to be good for you, not to then trade them away, kind of thing. But this is just, again, that's just the way the Rays operate. So, hey, this is what it is. Got them this far. So, like, I mean, hey, they've been to more World Series in the last 12 years, 14 years, I forget. Like, because they went to the World Series the first time, what was it, like 08? I want to see what the Evan Longoria team, I think that was 08. So they've been to more World Series in the last 15 years than the Yankees. So, there is that. So again, their model isn't foolproof, but like again, it does have some levels of success. So again, we'll kind of see how they operate without some of their top pitchers in the front of their rotation from last season. But also another thing I want to touch on is like maybe this will get some big moves popping in the MLB. I was like not to say like guys have gone places and signed and things like that. Like there has been moves made, but like no one like that big. And again, like George Springer still out there, even though there were some rumors, but still out there. Trevor Bauer like still out there. Like again, some of the bigger names are still available. And like I said, there hasn't really been a whole lot of trades either. So maybe this will get the ball rolling in that regard. Just again, sometimes somebody's got to make the first move. And like, all right, you can see like, all right, Blake Snell, this is what the Padres gave up for him. Obviously, they got a good farm system, so they can afford to give up a little bit more than maybe some other teams could. Like I said, you have an idea of what the trade market looks like. So again, I believe like Luis Castillo from the Reds, his name is being floated out there. Like obviously, like Arenado's, like some other guys being floated out there potentially as trade targets. Now you have an idea of what a market would look like for these types of players. Because again, this isn't just anybody. This is a former Cy Young Award winner. Again, a couple years ago, but again, he's still won a Cy Young before. Like not very many people you can trade for can say like, hey, this is a former Cy Young Award winner. So, I said, we'll have to see what that leads to, but hopefully, like I said, it leads to some kind of movement. Because I keep saying like I said, but the issue with MLB and the free agency that's just so slow. Like I said, NBA free agency, NFL free agency, like they're exciting because things happen, especially early. Like the MLB, everything is just so plodding and slow, and like there's no real rush, and everyone's just taking their time, and everyone's like doing whatever. I said once you got to the point where like Machado and like Harper a couple years ago, were like you went into the new year and they still weren't signed, and like it took them a while to get signed. That's when I knew I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a screwed up free agency big time. And again, obviously, I understand a lot of people, especially now, don't want to spend a whole lot of money and do all these other things, especially in baseball where it's not as lucrative as the NBA or the NFL. I get it. But still, there's no reason why we are about to hit 2021 and some of the bigger names on the free agency market are still out there. Like that's just weird to me. Like I said, that'd be like if LeBron, when he did his decision, like he waited until like September to like sign. Or like KD when he decided to go to Warriors, like he was like, you know what, I'm gonna wait until like again September, even like August. That would have been like really late like September, like October, like early October, like, okay, now I'm going to go sign with this team. Like, what is the holdup? I don't understand it. Is that someone who is more in tune with the MLB? Please fill me in, because I don't get it. Like, why the free agency is so slow. When free agency is a spectacle in most other major sports. I mean, obviously, mainly NFL and NBA. Like, they're spectacles. Like, people look forward to the day that free agency opens up. Just to see, like, who's going to go where, who's getting signed, who's getting traded, whatever. Like I said, the MLB, the free agency starts, no one even cares. It's like, no one's going to get signed for months. So, what's the point of paying attention? Again, it's just weird. So hopefully, like I said, the Blake Snell trade open some things up for other teams to be willing to make moves and trade guys or sign guys. Do something. Like, just do something. Give us something to talk about. It'd be greatly appreciated, honestly. But, again, shout out to the Padres. They got themselves another very good pitcher. That will be good for them not only just this season, this upcoming season, but also into the future. And will add another good arm for them to have once Clevenger comes back from his Tommy John surgery in the 2022 season. So, I guess it gives them something for the immediate and for the future, because, again, he's only 28, kind of lines up perfectly with their window. Under contract for 3 more years, only for $13 million a year, I think. So nothing too crazy. Like, you're not paying him $20+ million, nothing like that. You're paying him, like I said, right, like mid-teens. Which, again, is not a bad salary at all, especially when you see what some of these guys can get in the MLB. So, especially for, like, elite level pitchers. So, you definitely could do worse than that. But yeah, thought that was a little bit interesting. So, after we come back here, we will talk a little bit about some of the teams that were eliminated officially this weekend. Mainly the Eagles, the Raiders, and the Vikings, kind of where they go from here. Heading into the offseason, what kind of decisions they need to make, what kind of moves they could look into or start to think about doing, different things like that. We will discuss all of that right after the break, so stay right there.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC, Invicta FC, Bellator, and one championship. We got the fights covered. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And we're back here again on the GSMC Sports Podcast, presented by GSMC Podcast Network. Like I said, Vikings, Raiders, Eagles, all were officially eliminated this past weekend. And all have a lot of questions they have to answer. Well, not a lot, but have questions they have to answer heading into the offseason. And during the offseason, like what they're going to try to do for next year. So, because I'm probably going to spend most of the time talking about the Eagles, because I'm an Eagles fan, start with the Vikings and Raiders first. So from the Vikings' perspective, and they got to shore up this defense. They have to. Like, again, we'll see if Mike Zimmer's still around. Next year he probably should be, but again, we'll see. But their defense this year, terrible. Again, I thought it was going to be terrible because they were playing a lot of young guys. Didn't really have the pass rush they had in years past. And then again, Eric Kendricks got banged up a little bit this year. I think I'm pretty sure Anthony Barr missed like the whole season. So has an injury at the linebacker spot, which is the one spot they were pretty solid at. But like I said, the corners were unproven and young. Their safeties, Anthony Harris and Harrison Smith, objectively, or they're respectively or separately, or however you want to word it, have been good throughout the career, just weren't really that good this year. And I said the pass rush, they tried to add in Ngakoue after they let Everson Griffin go. That didn't really work. Ended up trading him. Danielle Hunter, I think, was banged up a little bit this year, so he didn't really have the impact he had normally had the last couple of years. And like I said, because of the defense suffered, they were one of the worst defense in the league. They are one of the worst defense in the league, excuse me. think bottom 10 in yards per game, passing yards per game there, in the bottom 10, rushing yards per game. Again, obviously yards is not everything, but rushing yards per game, they're one of the worst. And then points per game, they give up about 29 points per game, which is, again, near the bottom. Top 5 worst. Worse than the Jets. So that tells you all you need to know about the way in which they played this year. So, like I said, they got to get that figured out. I mean, they could probably use the first pick, like another lineman, maybe like a corner, or no, like I said, if not going to be defense, maybe like a lineman, depending on how you feel about Kirk Cousins, like maybe a quarterback. Because again, Kirk Cousins, not bad. Kirk Cousins, again, was not bad this year. He was, like, fine. Like, again, what's his name? Justin Jefferson doesn't have a record-setting rookie year if Kirk Cousins was terrible. But he isn't what they paid for, if that makes sense. Like, they paid for a Super Bowl. They looked at Case Keenum and the year he had when they went to the NFC Championship game and said, he's not good enough. So let's get someone who is to get us over that hump to get us to the Super Bowl. And what have they done with Kirk Cousins there? They haven't got back to the NFC Championship game. So they've literally regressed. In 3 years post Case Keenum, they have gotten worse, not better. And again, they gave him the contract extension this offseason, I believe. Don't really know how that's going to work out in terms of like when they can get out of it and things like that. And this year, he hasn't been that bad. 3,800 yards, 32 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, completion percentage around 67. So again, not terrible. 103 passer rating, 62 QBR. So he hasn't been terrible. That's my point. But they paid him to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and they have not got Super Bowl winner at any point. So, and that's really the issue. Funny enough, Mike Flory was talking about this from Pro Football Talk. This is like, I guess it was after the Christmas Day game. Like, he has an article titled, Kirk Cousins hasn't taken Vikings where they thought he would. Like I said, that's not the exact same point. They gave him a fully guaranteed contract to get them to a Super Bowl. And what has he done? Absolutely nothing. They're 24, 22, and 1 in his tenure with the Vikings with 1 game left. Extended his contract 2 more years in March, paying him about $13 million a year, when they could have just walked away from Kirk Cousins after next Sunday's game. Now, again, he's their own. Not my money. Not going to tell them how to spend it. But they gave him a contract extension to get them to a Super Bowl. But that's not what's going to happen. And like I said, barring some sort of miracle next year, I don't think it's going to happen next year where they get to a Super Bowl. So, with that being said, like, they paid this guy hundreds of millions of dollars for what? Let me know. Like, for what? Like, the point was to get to a Super Bowl. They have not even gotten close. They have not even gone back to where Case Keenum took them and they paying Kirk Cousins boatloads more money than they paid Case Keenum. So, like I said, obviously they need a lot of help from a defensive standpoint. Clearly, like I said, most of their draft picks, outside of maybe a lineman, even though, again, run blocking, they were fine, because Dalvin Cook had a great year. Even pass blocking, they haven't given up, like, an enormous amount of sacks. So it's not like they're that bad. But again, everyone could always probably use an extra lineman. But all the other picks, pass rush, corner, linebacker, safety, everywhere on the defense, they need help. And badly. They need help. So, like I said, that's where I think a lot of their resources will be allocated this offseason. But, like I said, the biggest misuse of their resources has been on Kirk Cousins. They need to figure out something to do there. Like I said, it's clear as day, he is not the answer. And the issue is that, how do they fix that? And like I said, that's really the big issue, is like, what do they do? Because they're paying him a lot of money, and it's not like it's going to be up anytime soon. So it's like, how do you rectify that? Because he's still under contract through 2022. The dead cap in 2021, if they were to cut him or whatever, is $41 million. So you're not doing that. Even 2022 is like $10 million. So like maybe you could cut him after next season. like potentially, especially since the cap is $45 million. Then there's no way he's going to be there after next season, unless he wins the Super Bowl. Because the cap $45 million cap hit for Kirk Cousins in this economy. No. Oh no. There's no way. But yeah, like I'm saying, like they got to figure out what to do. Are they going to run it back with Kirk Cousins again next year and be like not great but not bad? So you're like not good enough to get an actual top quarterback prospect, but like you're not also not good enough to like get to the Super Bowl. So it's like you're in that weird purgatory kind of place, which is like the worst place to be in all sports. Where, like you're not good enough to get like elite game changing prospect, but also not bad enough. No, you're not bad enough to get elite game changing prospect. You're also not good enough to compete for like a Super Bowl or NBA championship or whatever. And that middle ground that a lot of like some of these like smaller market teams, especially in the NBA, try to compete for, is like that's not what you want to be. You want to either be really bad so you can get elite talent, or really good and compete for a championship. If you're in the middle and you're just getting like first round exit, second round exit every year, there's no joy in that. Because then again, you're not good enough to win it all, but you're not bad enough to get real difference makers. Because again, you're not normally getting difference makers in the back end of the draft, generally speaking. So Vikings got to figure out what they're doing there. The Raiders, simple. I mean, basically all these teams have quarterbacks questions. But again, the Raiders, they have a situation where Derek Carr isn't terrible. He's not bad at all. But again, like Kirk Cousins, is he good enough? I don't know. Like I said, that's the real question. I don't know if he's good enough. Again, was he the issue with the team this year? No, not at all. He was very solid this year. 3,700 yards, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 67, almost 68% completion percentage, 102 passer rating, 71, QBR. Like, outside of 2016, this is probably his best year. Yeah, easily his best year. Outside of 2016. But again, what did it get you? It got you 7-8 and missing the playoffs. So again, not good enough. Now, I would say for him, they probably need a little bit more help on the outside. Speaking of which, I believe Nelson Aguilar is a free agent because I think he's on a 1-year deal. Got to figure out a way to re-sign him if I'm the Raiders because he's been spectacular for you this year. Obviously, him and Derek Carr have some sort of rapport. So there's no reason to let him walk. But he's not a true number one. So they need a true number one. Obviously, they kind of sort of paid Tyrell Williams that, but he was hurt this year, if I remember correctly. And like, I'm pretty sure he got hurt like early in the season, or like in the off season, something like that. Like he obviously hasn't played at all this year. But like I said, I think he got hurt, and then like there's no real reason to keep him around. You would think because he's getting paid big money to not be on the field. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. But again, to each their own. Like I said, they probably need some help. They could maybe, I know there was an article about making Allen Robinson a priority if he leaves Chicago, which is no guarantee, but if he does, they could be a landing spot for him. Because in theory, Derek Carr's better than Mitch and Nick Foles. No, Mitch isn't playing better, but you get the point. But like I said, they probably need a true number one. Because Henry Ruggs hasn't really shown that this year. Like I said, they got a bunch of like solid receivers. Darren Wahl's really the wide receiver one, honestly. Like I said, imagine him with like a legit outside threat at receiver. Would make both their lives a lot easier. Make Derek Carr's life a lot easier. Make Josh Jacobs' life a lot easier. Make the whole line's job a lot easier. It would just help everybody out immensely. Make Nelson Aguilar's job a lot easier, where he's not the main focus of the passing attack outside of Darren Waller. And even though he was good in that role this year, but again, if you have another true option, it allows him to knock down the pecking order, get worse corners and worse matchups that he can exploit. Same with Henry Ruggs. You can't just rotate all the coverage to him and keep a safety over top of him because then you're just going to leave Allen Robinson or whoever on the backside or the other side one-on-one. He's going to beat most of the corners and get open a lot of the time. And Derek Carr should be able to hit him a lot of the time. So they need to figure that out. And like I said, also kind of figure out if Derek Carr's the guy because I don't know 100% how enthused or infatuated John Gruden is with Derek Carr. Like he may want to move on at some point. I don't know. Like I said, he's not bad, but he's not great. He's just he's solid. But again, isn't the worst thing in the world, obviously you prefer to have a solid quarterback than a bad quarterback, but is Derek Carr going to beat Justin Herbert? Is Derek Carr going to beat Patrick Mahomes year after year in the division? That's your question. Like I said, you've seen the way Justin Herbert's played this year, and Mahomes is Mahomes. And again, Drew Lock, you're not as worried about with same thought process. Like, do you think you can compete 4 games a year with Mahomes and Justin Herbert with Derek Carr? If you do, then all right, you're good. If you don't, then you got to figure out what you got to do to get somebody better than him, whether that's in the draft or free agency or trade, whatever. And then, speaking of draft, they need that defense. They need help. A lot of help. Like, badly. They got to figure something out, just like the Vikings. Their defense is worse. They give up more points. They have averaged a few less yards. Their passing defense is a little bit worse, and their run defense is a little bit better. Like I said, they need help badly. The pass rush wasn't really as good this year as it was last year. Like Max Crosby had a good year last year and things like that, but their pass rush was not that great. Not this is the be all and end all, but pass rush was not that great. Only averaged about 1.3 sacks a year. 1.3 sacks a game this year, as opposed to in 2019 they averaged 2 sacks a game. So again, a pretty significant drop off. But yeah, like I said, they got to figure that out too. And then again, better pass rush helps out the corners, helps out the secondary. They need help there. They need help at linebacker. They just need help. And they just need help on the defensive side, much like the Vikings. So they're gonna have to spend a lot of resources and not get a lot of draft picks and things like that to that defense to help out, which is kind of crazy. They drafted a corner in the first round, and I don't think he's the answer yet. Again, not gonna write anybody off after the first year, but he's probably not the answer yet. At least maybe he'll develop and things like that. But he's not that great right now. Cleveland Farrell looked better this year, but again, he hasn't looked 4th overall better, and so that's kind of a problem. Again, you draft guys 4th overall, you expect them to be game changers. And while he hasn't been terrible, again, has not been great, only 2 sacks this year. That's not good enough. A couple forced fumbles, a couple pass defense, 10 quarterback hits, things like that. This is all from Pro Football Reference, but still, you don't draft guys in the 4th with the 4th overall pick to get 6.5 sacks in 2 years. That's not it. Not at all. So they got to figure out something there as well. Has he been banged up a little bit too? So that's kind of a main issue. So like I said, they got some things to work on, and obviously the Eagles. Whew, okay, so where do I even begin? Obviously, you got to start with the quarterback position. Again, Hurts had his worst game of the games he's played so far. Was not great. Not gonna lie. But he's shown some good things in the last 2 games. Or even in this game, he's shown some good things outside the turnovers, really. But obviously, if you turn the ball over a lot, that's going to be a problem. And his fumbles are kind of bad, though. I don't like how fumbles, like bad snaps, are considered quarterback fumbles, because that doesn't really count. But whatever. Still has a little bit of fumbling issue. And he still has issues like processing, maybe a little bit issue with his arm strength isn't that strong. Maybe leaves the pocket a little too quick. Decides to run a little too quick, things like that. That going to have to be worked on in the offseason. But again, do they have their quarterback of the future on the roster? That's the question. Like, do they think they can rehabilitate Wentz? Do you think Jalen Hurts is the answer? Do they think it's a guy that they could draft potentially as high as 3rd overall? Whether it be Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, whoever. Do they think that's their guy? I don't know. And like I said, that's going to be the big question. Is like, what do they do at the quarterback position? Is it a quarterback competition? Do they just get Wentz out of there? Do they give Jalen Hurts the keys? Do they draft another guy in the first round, let them compete? Like I said, the whole idea of the way like teams are being built now is get the quarterback young and exploit his rookie not exploit, but like utilize his rookie contract. Now they're not going to be able to do that next year because of the fact that regardless of if they keep Wentz or don't, their cap situation is dire. Now if they get rid of Wentz in turn as part of a trade, then 2022 their cap sheet is a little bit cleaner and they can maybe spend some money, getting some new pieces, things like that. I said for next year, they're just going to try to get under the salary cap and then just draft guys and do whatever. Like, they're not going to really be able to do too much in free agency and trade other than maybe, like, again, trade away, see if they can get something back for Wentz, see if they can get something back for Ertz. A couple of different guys that maybe you try to get rid of in a trade and see if they can get some pieces back or draft picks or whatever. Like I said, they have to figure out what they're doing at the quarterback position. That's issue number 1. Issue number 2. Gotta fix that defense. Pass rush, great. That's, beautiful. Happy with that. Linebackers, terrible. Secondary, outside Darius Slay, terrible. Their back seven has been bad, basically. All of Jim Short's tenure there. Obviously, 2017 masked it a little bit because their linebackers played really well. They got a lot of turnovers, things like that. It kind of helped mask that. I mean, they started Jalen Mills in the Super Bowl. That tells you all you need to know about where the defense was at. And that's why Tom Brady threw 500 yards. But yeah, like outside Darius Slay, they don't have one guy that can cover literally anybody. And even Darius Slay kind of got worked by some of the elite receivers this year. Well, in those few games back to back. So that's a problem. If he's your best corner and he's getting worked, then what do you do? Because for most of the game, Amari Cooper in this past game was held in check. And you know why he was held in check? Because Andy Dalton kept throwing at Michael Jacquet, and Michael Gallup kept coming down with the ball. And then once they flipped, all right, we got to put, all right, you know what? We'll put Slay on Gallup. Cool. Then I'll start throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Then I'll start throwing the ball to Amari Cooper again. Like it's bad because they don't have a single guy at the cornerback position that can cover anybody outside Darius Slay. And they haven't had anybody that was that good in coverage for years. Like, Darius Slay is the best corner they've had in a long time, and it's still not enough. It's better. It's definitely better, but it's still not enough. Like, again, just don't throw at Darius Slay and throw at literally anybody else. You're going to get a completion. I promise you. If you throw a good ball, I promise you. Corner, safety, linebacker, target any one of them. Does not matter. You're going to get a completion. You're going to. It's just going to happen. So I said they need to, whether, like I said, free agency they probably can't help, but like draft, and they need linebacker help, they need safety help, they need corner help. It's all bad. On offense, they need receiver help. They need, I mean, the O-line is what it is because like they got a lot of injuries, so hopefully they won't be in the situation again next year. And if they are, at least some of these guys will have experience. They will be better able to handle the situation as opposed to what they've been thrown into this year, where they have, I think they're going to finish the season with 13 different starting O-line combinations in 16 games. That is like actually wild. And mind you, none of those combinations were the O-line starters on paper come like post-draft. Like they never even got to see what their original starting lineup was going to look like on the offensive line. Never, because Brandon Brooks got hurt, then Dillard got hurt in camp, and then like I said, from there they were just mixing and matching from that moment on. And it's only gotten worse. So they got to figure that out. And then again, they got to figure out what they're doing with the organization. Like, are you bringing Doug back? Which, I mean, I would contend you maybe shouldn't because his offense has looked bad the last 3 years, but that's neither here nor there. But if you do bring him back, do you have him relinquish play calling duties? Do you actually bring in a legit OC instead of having this weird offensive committee thing that they have where no one is really an offensive coordinator and they all kind of have like collective opinions or input on it and it's all kind of a mess and the offenses look no better this year than it did in the years past? What do you do about Jim Schwartz? Because again, while the defensive stats aren't really that bad, he's like, hey, I'm going to leave this guy, undrafted free agent rookie, out here on Michael Gallup with no help, and then be surprised when he gets beat. And again, that's what he's done. Like he doesn't give guys a lot of help. He just plays them and like, hey, look, go out there, run the defense. Even if they can't do it, even if they're challenged physically or challenged skill-wise, they're just like, hey, look, go figure it out. Just go figure it out. And like I said, that's not a sustainable model for a defense. And you wonder why they struggle. And like I said, I don't know how much input he does or doesn't have in the personnel, but if he does have strong input, which is reportedly the case, the personnel is not good. So whose fault is that? If you have input, like I said. Like the general manager, Howard Roseman, has tried to bring guys that he hasn't played that have gone on to play better elsewhere. They've brought in guys via trade that they won't use. They've played guys over other guys that are more veteran guys or been around longer, and the younger guys come in and play better than the vets did. And like I said, that's a problem. Like I said, then we get to Howie, and I mean, you look at their drafts from post 2016, it is so bad. They have like I said, they have one guy's been to a Pro Bowl since 2016, and that's Wentz, and that tells you all you need to know about that. And just looking at the young talent on the team, they have they have Miles, obviously he's good. Dallas Goedert, he's good. Josh Sweat's been really good this year. And then like in terms of like other talent, again, they have some of the young guys on the offensive line that played well. Obviously, like you hope that Rager can develop more, Quez Watkins, guys like that, but no guarantee. No guarantee about that. Like I said, they just have a dearth of young talent on that roster right now. Like I said, you can't win the NFL if you don't have good young players. Because they're cheap and they allow you to allocate resources elsewhere if you have good young players. And the Eagles just don't if you're looking through the elite young talent on their team, I don't know if they have it. Now again, I think Dallas Goedert could be that if he got moved. Well, not if he got moved, but once Zach Ertz got moved, he got more of a tight end one role. But he be banged up sometimes. He drop passes sometimes. He's not perfect. But again, I think he could be a very solid tight end if they gave him more burn. I said outside, their young receivers that are good are question mark. Running back obviously is Miles. That's good. The quarterback is question mark. Like I said, they've got a lot of holes, and a lot of that falls back on Howard Roseman and his lackluster drafts. And lackluster, not trading for guys. Like I said, DeAndre Hopkins was available. Stephon Diggs was available. Jalen Ramsey was available. And, I was like, oh, you don't pay this much, you don't give up first-round picks, blah, blah, blah. And sure, you don't. But when you're drafting guys and they're not really hitting either, you might as well trade for a proven commodity as opposed to just a lottery ticket, which is basically what draft picks are. Because like I said, they're I could go on for a while about this, and I don't want to go on forever because I know not everybody cares about the Eagles. But like I said, their situation is bad, top to bottom. Top to bottom. They basically, I don't know how many starters they have entrenched. Okay, so they got Miles, they got Slay, they got the defensive line more or less, and they got some of their offensive linemen, depending on if Kelsey decides to retire. And Goddard, obviously, that's it. Everyone else's position is up for grabs, basically, this offseason. And they got to figure out how to add some talent because it's clear the team is getting worse since the Super Bowl. And part of the reason they're getting worse is because they had no young talent to add in. Now, some of that was because of the lack of draft picks and things like that, but now they got their full allotment of picks back. And in this past year, I think they had 10 picks. And if you ask the Eagles fan, I don't even know the most promising one might be Jalen Hurts, who also might not be the quarterback of the future as a second-round pick. That's all you need to know about the draft picks in recent years. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess, to say the least. But yeah, a lot of interesting decisions that would have to be made across the NFL in this offseason. So we only got 1 week left, and then, like I said, we get to Black Monday, and then we get to the offseason and things like that, and it's going to be a mess. And I, for one, will be very much looking forward to it, and I imagine a lot of you football fans out there are looking forward to it as well. But that'll do it for me today on the GSMC Sports Podcast presented by GSMC Podcast Network. I want to thank you guys always for listening to me talk about sports. If you haven't already, subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode. Make sure I was on top when we drop our latest stuff. Also, if you could please as well, give us a 5-star rating, write us a nice review. Very appreciated, very helpful. Also, if you guys like, what you guys dislike, the ways you can improve. All that fun stuff. And also, if you're on social media, we're on social media, so you can find us there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We can talk, we can chat, we can debate, we can discuss, and talk about your takeaways from Week 16, some of your predictions or opinions on how some of the seeding will shake out to end the NFL season. Because again, the 1 seed's still up for grabs. Some of the lower seeds in both conferences are up for grabs still. How do you think it's going to play out? All stuff. We can discuss that with us. You can discuss your takeaways from the first week, or less than a week, but you get the point. The first week of NBA basketball, some of the surprises, some of the disappointments, some of the surprise players, some of the disappointing players, things like that. Feel free to reach out to us. I said, what other teams that have been eliminated from the playoffs, what do you think they need to work on? If you're a fan of one of these teams, what are you hoping they do during the offseason? What changes they hope they make? What guys you hope they bring in? Guys you hope they re-sign? Guys you hope they let go? Trades? Different things like that. Like I said, feel free to reach out to us. We'll talk about whatever you guys want to talk about when it comes to sports. Before I get out of here, as I always do, I want to give a shout out to the essential workers that have worked tirelessly through the pandemic to make sure everybody's as safe, as healthy as we can be. So doctors, nurses, EMTs, first responders, firefighters, postal service workers, retail workers, grocery store workers, dollar store workers, FedEx, UPS, Amazon, anybody's deemed essential, anybody's a frontline worker. I very much appreciate the work you have done and wanting to continue to do, because obviously it's not getting any better. It's quite a bit of a mess in America right now. Like I said, you guys have been fighting the good fight, doing the job that not many other people would be willing or able to do, and you're doing it even in the face of maybe not great working conditions or not the best pay, or you're working around people that may or may not be taking it as seriously as they should be. You still got to do your job, still got to do the hard work. So again, I appreciate you all our work you've done and will continue to have to do as this pandemic continues on in this country. Also, still going out to bars, restaurants, things like that. If they're still open where you live, tip your bartenders, tip your waitresses, tip your waiters nicely, and a little above and beyond if you can. Not telling anybody to go beyond their means, especially with all like the jobs and everything, and the way the economy is situated right now. Not telling anyone to go beyond their means, but if you have it, I imagine it would be appreciated if you could spend a little bit more and give a little bit more to these people that I imagine will be hit hard. Like many industries have been hit hard during this pandemic and will continue to be hit hard. But I know the restaurant industry is one that will definitely be suffering because, again, a lot of these places can't have as many customers they used to have, may not even be able to seat people indoors right now. They may only be doing takeout, may only be able to do outdoor dining. Like I said, much like a lot of places or a lot of industries, restaurant industry is definitely going to be hit hard, and we'll see if a lot of these places are even able to survive the winter. So if you can, like I said, tip them nicely. That'll go a long way. Also, just wear a mask. It's very simple, very easy. But that'll do it from here today. I've been Chris Blades. That has been my time. And until next time, peace out.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.